Hello from Tokyo and
And hello from South Florida, where we have burning embers around my house at the moment. A little
yeah,
brush
what was up
fire.
with that fire? Actually, pretty
I don't,
exciting video you sent me the other night.
I don't know. It's Michael. It's an interesting world in which we are just sort of like, what do we call? We're really bags of water moving through sharp, pointy objects. It's a miracle we live every single day. But yeah, no, just to add insult to injury to what happened to President Trump the other day.
Yeah,
Supposedly a brush fire was started outside our neighborhood and it burned a lot. And a lot of homes, unfortunately, have serious smoke damage. We're far enough back that we didn't fortunately sustain any damage, but it's still burning. It's still smoldering, and they still have, emergency vehicles out there. We're on day 3 now. It's crazy. No lightning, just a fire started. So who knows? Who knows? Anyway, how
yeah,
are things in Japan? It's
very good.
like what,
And
11
actually,
o'clock at night there or something? 12 o'clock?
it is 11:49 p.m., so 11 minutes before midnight. And actually, this is actually on YouTube as well, by the way. So
Yeah.
we're streaming here and on YouTube, and interesting. There's so many things happening over here, but I've been watching that sham trial up in New York, and you notice that tweet that Mike Adams put out.
Yeah.
With what has happened, this will cause economic devastation for New York as companies start to abandon New York. And as you know, rule of law is absolutely essential. Businesses abhor unpredictability, right? One of the reasons Hong Kong was so successful was because it had that Chinese work ethic and the Chinese industriousness, and also it had that British rule of law. It fused those two things together and had the stability of the rule of law.
Yeah.
And now that the Chinese Communist Party has taken over, the capital is fleeing Hong Kong.
Yeah, well, it's the Chinese Communist Party working in tandem with their partners in the World Economic Forum. But let's not forget the bankers, right? We have as you've been calling it, and a lot of people are saying it's an oligarchical war where you've got so many competing factions at the top that are vying for world control, and they all want to have total control. They all have their own sick anti-God agenda, starting with the different ways they've been poisoning us for decades now, whether it's in our food, our water, our air. COVID was another kill shot, literally. And they haven't stopped, and they're not stopping. And they're now so brazen. They're out in the open. The masks are off. We know who they are. And they're laughing about it. They really are laughing in our faces about it. But I think this time, with the persecution so blatant and so in the open about President Trump, that you're seeing the world unite. I mean, I'm seeing videos coming from around the world where people are, basically gathering in the streets in various countries, and they're standing up for Trump. I mean, UFC went crazy last night at the UFC fight. They went crazy over Trump. Everywhere you go, Black, white, Christian, Jew, they're all coming together here in the United States, and they're saying, this is ridiculous. We now fully understand the government is at war with the people, something you and I have known for a long time. But now I think it's, the everyday people who are busy paying taxes and doing, both parents working, the kids are in indoctrination camps in public schools. They're finally realizing that this is just nothing but a collective cabal at war with the people. And they're using the money that we pay them to kill us, basically. So I think people are coming together, and I think it's going to be very interesting next few months here in the United States and frankly around the world.
Oh, I agree. And you talked about anti-God. It's absolutely true. I mean, when I first heard that many years ago, I thought, people are exaggerating or they're seeing apparitions or something. But once you get switched on to it and you know what you're looking, it's everywhere. I mean, we were in a building last week in Japan, and there was a big statue there with the statue was quite grotesque. It was demon-like. It had a huge long neck and it had horns, and I published it actually on X. I mean, and you see this stuff all over the place. Now, Japan is not in the advanced stages that the United States and others are. Interestingly, this is the first time, by the way, I've used a DSLR camera to do the live streams. And we had a little problem with the autofocus. So I was looking on the Sony website or Sony on YouTube, and there was, and it was showing how to do this autofocus we're trying to make work. And the model in the Sony video is like demon-like, black lipstick and weird, just, I'm like, it's everywhere you look. I mean, it's just polluting, and it's intentional, as you know.
Yeah. Well, they're going to show us and tell us who they are. That is part of their religious doctrine, if you will. They have to tell you what their agenda is. I mean, look at the Church of Satan. They've been openly speaking about abortion as part of the ritual for them of child sacrifice. They've published.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They've been, suing to, keep a, overturn Roe v. Wade. And so, or to keep, Roe v. Wade.
Wait. Let's get this clear. You're saying that they need abortion because they need to do child sacrifice?
Yeah. Yeah. They've openly spoke about it. They're not shy. This is part of their ritual. Unfortunately, this is how sick these people are. And they're not afraid to say it because, they believe that they've trained the American psyche to think that it's okay, my body, my choice. And the thing is, a woman's body is designed to carry another life. So that other life is not an appendage like your arm. It's a separate living being. Yes, you're housing it, but that's God's design. And when you give birth, I mean, even in times of rape, as horrible as the thought is that you would be raped, I know people that are children of rape, and they are incredible contributors to society today. Dr. Mark Sherwood comes to mind, and he's a fantastic doctor. He's done a lot in the functional medicine environment, and he's been a real strong voice against the bioweapon and against the COVID scheme that was, launched against humanity, essentially. And this is a child of rape. And he's grateful his mother didn't terminate the pregnancy, because look at the contributions he's making today. He's got a great life, a great wife, and a great practice, and he saves lives. So, people need to make a real decision when it comes to these things about, look, if you don't want the child, or you feel like you can't, afford it, or you just don't mentally or physically have the bandwidth to deal with this, then whether it was through rape or it was just because you were careless and selfish one night, you need to make the better decision and give that child up for adoption. There's plenty of people that would love to adopt the child. And unfortunately, even that process is so tainted by our own government that the Magnitsky Act was written into law by Russia, by Putin, because they didn't want to give their Russian children to Americans anymore, because we're so irresponsible that a lot of these children were going into child sex trafficking. Because our process is so broken. Again, it's the same governmental entities that are designed to protect the people that are weaponized against the people and are using their power for their own sick predilections and their own financial gain. And so we, the people, have got our own atonement. We have to atone for our sins of just passing off government and not paying attention as we delegate consent of the governed to these demons. We've taken our eye off the ball, Michael. So I think people are waking up to that now, and they're going to start, clawing it back. And it starts with not complying with the edicts and the orders coming out of Washington, D.C., the District of Criminals.
Right. District of Criminals. Mm-hmm. Exactly. This will cause capital flight. And that was one of the problems that communist countries had was capital flight, right? And people flight, brain drain, right? And, and a lot of us were in those countries while they were still communist during transition for me, when they were transitioning, not male to female, but from communist to free market. Right. And it was incredible. I mean, the money, as soon as the governments changed and rule of law, for instance, in Poland, I lived in Poland for 2 years during the transition to free market, the capital just started gushing back into Poland, right?
Sure.
People wanted to do business in Poland, but they had to trust that the courts would, uphold the rule of law. And one time I was doing business in Poland, and at one point a container showed up in the port that, for some of the things I was doing. And the Polish government had just announced from Friday to Monday that there's a new border tax. I forgot. It was like 6% or something. And I put it in the spreadsheet. So I'm like, well, that, it kills our IRR. I mean, that was, totally like, and so many of the other companies were very angry, like Coca-Cola and Pepsi were coming in, and I was working with those people. Right. So I called them up immediately, like, what's going on with this? And they're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to fix this real quick. I think it was Pepsi. It may have been Pepsi that threatened the Polish government with a $400 million. I may be wrong on this, but it would be in the news. But I think, because Pepsi, I think, had just announced, if I'm accurate, that they were going to put like $400 million into Poland. It's been many years. But then as soon as Poland said, as soon as Pepsi, I think it was Pepsi, said, we'll just take that money and put it somewhere else. The Polish government immediately backed off. There was no border tax. But you can see somebody just came up with that communist idea of like, hey, we need some money. Oh, just raise a tax. And everybody's like, whoa, 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 and all the business people are like, oh, we'll just take our money and go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen to New York. You can see that's what's happening to California and everybody else. Look at McDonald's. I sent you a link the other day.
Oh,
McDonald's is looking at pulling out of California.
Exactly. They can't afford $20 an hour for a minimum wage to sell hamburgers. You'd be selling a hamburger for like $12. Who can afford that?
When McDonald's pulls out of your area, that's a huge bad sign. I mean, what do they call it? The McDonald's index or something like that. I forgot. I remember reading about that like 30 years ago, where, when McDonald's comes to your country, it's a great sign that stability has arrived. It's not a great sign necessarily for anything else, but it's a great sign that, your country is stable enough that they will do business with you, because they're very serious business people, and they're only going to put their money in places where it's relatively safe and they can get a good return, right? And to hear McDonald's may pull out of California is massive news.
Yeah, it's massive news. But you know who else is pulling out of California and the United States? U.S. citizens. They're leaving the United States.
Yeah.
I know several people who are moving over to Europe right now, of all crazy things, Europe, which has been basically destroyed. But the cost of living there is far cheaper than it is here. I've got friends that moved here from Italy to Miami, are now moving back to Rome because it's cheaper to live in Rome. They can get a beautiful 2-bedroom, 1,700 square foot apartment for half the price of what they're paying for a little shoebox in Miami, a 1-bedroom. So and the food is all organic. It's real food. You're not having all these GMO grains that are caught and sprayed with Monsanto, glyphosate, which is killing people, literally destroying their gut biome and creating cancer and all this horrible stuff here. And you don't see fat people in mass all over Europe. You don't see 500, 600-pound people waddling around the streets. Like when you walk into stores here in the United States, people are like literally morbidly obese here. And it's not because for lack of exercise or lack of trying or lack of cutting back on food. It's literally the food they're eating. It's literally the food they're eating. And you see this. So I'm gravely concerned about the replacement population that you and I have reported on, along with Misako Ganaha and, obviously the Muckraker brothers, Ben Bergquam, Josh Phillips and the Epoch Times crew, Laura Loomer. We've had, Brett Weinstein, Chris Martenson, all the members of Congress you've drugged down there, and people running for Congress like Mara Macy, incredible girl up in the Florida 5th District. This is a real concern because, again, what we see happening here in the United States, the reasons that people came here, those freedoms have been dissolved. Our Constitution has been shelved. And instead, we become a corporatocracy of fascism and a totalitarian regime, making mandates and codes and statutes that apply to corporations. And they're treating the people as we are corporations. We're not. They've abandoned the law of the land, the Constitution, and they're not listening to us at all. And in fact, every aspect of all 3 branches of government have been wiped out and taken over by communists and people who are anti-God. And what we saw happen in New York to President Trump is prima facie example of weaponization of alleged general ledger entries that at worst were misdemeanors, if in fact he did anything wrong. Or his
Wouldn't you have to stretch to make that even a parking ticket level thing?
Oh, 100%, 100%. But when you have the judge and then you have a jury, which is supposed to be of your peers. Yet if you look at the statistics of the people that voted for Trump in that district, remember, this is New York, highly polarized state, right? Very blue. 5% of the voting electorate in that particular jurisdiction even voted for Trump. It wasn't even close to 30% or 40%, which could be considered a jury of your peers, right? Because this is a political candidate that they're trying to silence, and they've gagged, and they've done so many unconstitutional things in this entire trial. Hell, he didn't even know what he was being charged with. He didn't even know what the real charge was until after the jury rendered their decision.
Really? Wait a minute. Hold on. I was so busy with the things in Japan and Taiwan. By the way, when we left Taiwan, the Chinese Navy sort of surrounded it. So we were kind of focused on. Oh, that was after we left. As soon as we left Taiwan, because, they just had presidential election over in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And as soon as the new president was sworn in, they had their inauguration. Misako and I, we were on Chinmen Island. So we were not at the inauguration in Taipei. We were at this island, which is right next to China. Literally, people from China swim to Taiwan. There's some Taiwanese. And anyways, as soon as we left, because we had to come back for these pandemic treaty protests, which are so vital here in Japan. As soon as we left, the Chinese Navy surrounded Taiwan. And so we've been kind of busy looking at those things and the mRNA.
Yeah.
There's you know how important Darien Gap is and how far ahead we all were on Darien Gap and some other things. It's the same now in Japan. Just imagine, people keep asking me, why are you in Japan? Well, one reason is the mRNA. This is like the Darien Gap for mRNA. It's that important. This is ground zero for the big fight for the self-replicating mRNA. So tomorrow night you're going to be talking with, as you know, Dr. Murakami, who is a leading virologist and mRNA self-replicating mRNA expert here in Japan. He was an advisor actually to Shinzo Abe, the prime minister who was assassinated, and a friend actually. So you'll be talking with him tomorrow night. But so what I'm getting to is we were kind of focused on this, and then we look back at the United States and like, look what's happening to Trump. He didn't even know the charges.
So I'm going to read something to you because I follow this account. He's great, Kanekoa the Great. He's a fantastic account on Twitter, by the way, if people don't follow him. But he's actually,
who is that? I mean, I follow his account, but I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know who it is.
It's somebody smart.
Very, very smart. Yeah. Sidney Powell, General Flynn, and many like-minded people that I respect quote and requote this guy on Twitter, or gal, whoever it is. But anyhow, he put a tweet out. It said, CNN senior legal analyst describes how the Trump conviction was a political hit job. Now, let me just repeat that. This was a CNN senior political analyst, and Kanekoa the Great is quoting him, and he put down a number of items. He said, 1, the judge donated money in plain violation of a rule prohibiting New York judges from making political donations to a pro-Biden, anti-Trump political operation. So right there, you have a judge with bias, clearly, right? Because he's making donations to Trump's political enemy. Number 2, Alvin Bragg. Of course, we all know Alvin Bragg, who, by the way, neither Judge Merchan, I have people looking into Judge Merchan's U.S. citizenship status right now, because apparently there's no evidence that he's even a U.S. citizen, and there's no oath of office on file for him or Alvin Bragg for that matter. So these are posers at worst, something more at I should say posers at best, something more at worst. But anyway, Alvin Bragg boasted on the campaign trail in an overwhelmingly Democrat county, quote, "It is a fact that I have sued Trump over 100 times. Most importantly, the DA's charges against Trump push the outer boundaries of the law and due process." And then this is the part I was telling you about. The charges against Trump are obscure and nearly entirely unprecedented. In fact, no state prosecutor in New York or Wyoming or anywhere has ever charged federal election laws as a direct predicate state crime against anyone for anything, none ever. Again, these are federal election laws. So it's a federal jurisdiction, and they brought it forward in a state court as some of the crimes they charged him with. You literally can't do that. You're like literally in the wrong jurisdiction. I remember a case that Sidney Powell brought into a federal, I think it was in a federal court in Atlanta, if I recall correctly. And it was tossed. It was a lawsuit against the election for, fighting for Trump. And they threw her out and said, you of all people, Sidney Powell, should know this is the wrong jurisdiction. You need to go back down to the lower court. So, they just don't play by the rules, Michael. It's like they just make them up as they go along, just like the judge telling the jury, hey, look, if half of you, if 4 of you want to convict him on this and 4 want to convict him on another charge and another 4 of you want to convict him on something else, I'll just call that a unanimous conviction. So the judge gave the jury instructions. You can have different convictions or reasons you're convicting, but I'll make it all one conviction. Isn't that amazing? I'll call it unanimous. Yeah. The judge made up the rules. You can't do that. How does he?
They don't have any rules. If you're making up the rules, there's no rules, right?
Exactly.
It's just basically Planet of the Apes is the bottom line, right?
It's Planet of the Apes, 100%.
And obviously the apes that are going to end up taking over New York will not be able to run New York, period. It will break down because it's a highly sophisticated, the cities that we live in are not something that your average Joe can run. Somebody comes in from a third world country, they're not going to be able to run it, period. And all the people that are able to run it most of them are going to hit the road.
That's right. That's right. Hi, Misako. I know Misako's been very busy the last few days. She's had millions of people on her Twitter account while she was live streaming from the WHO protest. I think that is just amazing. You're like the female Joe Rogan over in Japan. It's extraordinary the amount of people that really listen to what you're putting out there. It's great because you put out amazing content. I wish I could understand it because most of it's in Japanese.
It's actually hard to walk down the street with Misako because everybody knows her. And
Yeah.
but at this protest, she had more than 500,000 live on the, and it was
Amazing.
really it's just Misako walking around doing her thing, and yeah, and so it's so important because Misako is so connected with people in Japan that we get instant access. When we show up and the doors just open, and so Misako, this thing on mRNA, it's unbelievable.
Yes. So there was a massive anti-flu
Can you get her a little closer to the mic, Michael? She's
Closer to the mic.
Oh,
yeah.
is this the mic?
Here,
Yeah.
take this
There
one.
was an anti-flu rally on May 31st,
Yeah.
and it said that 12,000 people showed up, but I don't think that number is correct. Like according to the Japanese news, they say 12,000 people, but I don't think the number is correct. I would estimate 30,000. I want to ask your opinion on that. But anyways, so there was a massive rally to stop the flu for this IHR amendment and pandemic treaty that just got pushed through, as you know. And I was doing live stream, and even though WHO is doing whatever it takes to deploy new global totalitarian tool, but Japan showed great effort that we are going to resist. The venue took place right in front of Ministry of Health.
Wow.
So we are 100% sure that our voices are heard because we can see the massive building from the venue. Yes, and actually I was taking the video, and when I got to the entrance of Ministry of Health, the security told me not to film. Like I was just on the public road and they said not to take it. I took it anyways.
Good.
But that shows us the pressure that they are feeling. That's
Good.
what I felt. Yeah,
Good.
yes.
They should be feeling the pressure, Misako, because
And there were so many people. And
Yeah.
one guy was listening on the phone and putting it up on the bullhorn.
Yes. So there are massive, because the venue only seated 3,000 people, and there are more than five times more people than it could hold from the beginning. I talked to a lady who was in the top of the line, in front of the line. She said she arrived to the venue at 5:30 a.m. And so there are a lot of people. So the organizer started to put speaker outside. But I don't know the reason why, but they stopped the speaker outside. So the people outside were so desperate to hear what's being said on the stage. So somebody pulled up phone, and then somebody combined the megaphone, and they made instant speaker.
wow. That's amazing. Well, that tells you though that tells you that people are awake and that the work that you've done, because you do have a big megaphone, Misako, the work you've done has woken a lot of people up and they're ready to stand up and fight back. I had several friends, Tammy Clark from Stand Up Michigan. She was over in Geneva. Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, I think you know her. She's my twin doppelganger from Canada. She was over there. I had Tammy ran into her, thought it was me. That happens all the time. People run into Laura thinking it's me and vice versa. So we laugh about it because we do look like twin sisters. It's very funny. And she's up there, standing on soapboxes, yelling at the crowd, getting everybody fired up. But, interestingly enough, we did a show the other day with Frank Gaffney and some other Twitter spaces that the WHO pandemic treaty didn't pass. They couldn't get a consensus. That was great news, and we should be excited. And Dr. Meryl Nass, can I share this real quick? Can I show this?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So this was a tweet, Dr. Meryl Nass, who was on a Twitter space recently with us. She put this out. about the WHO's pandemic preparedness plan is over. And she talks about how, we basically seen through all the BS, all the lies, and that these globalists created legal documents. And if you know anything about legal, you know it's not lawful. What's legal is not lawful. What's lawful is not legal. But they were trying to hide what they really wanted to do. We saw through it. The people saw through it. And the people spoke up and said no. But what she goes on to say is the treaty can't be resurrected from the ashes. But this was the foundational agreement for the treaty. And so she goes into what the IHR is about. So she says, well, nothing can happen with the treaty. It can't be brought back. She says the IHR amendments is, while it's true that some articles in the amendments had the agreement of negotiators and could be voted on, the agreed upon items were not the dangerous ones. So they did pass the IHR amendments. And she says that they tended to be the flowery language ones, not the meaningful ones, with a single exception. Interestingly, the negotiators were fine telling nations to surveil their citizens and combat misinformation and disinformation. They were fine with censorship and propaganda. So this is nothing new, right? They've been doing this to us here in the States since President Trump weaponized the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act and has made that, his tool to basically use the media to brainwash us and tell us lies about what's really going on. They tried to shut down Alex Jones. Michael and I got the pleasure of hosting in his studios 4 hours one day, a couple hours another day. And Michael's been a frequent guest. I've been on a few times. But the point is, Alex Jones has been a truth slayer for 20 plus years. And, they've been trying to shut him down because they recognize him as a real threat in this information war. And Michael talks about information war as the highest form of warfare. So the one thing they managed to keep in the IHR, which of course we swallowed hook, line, and sinker, thanks to Joe Biden, is the fact that they are legalizing surveillance and citizenship. So if anything we've lost was our free speech in this whole IHR amendment. So I think it's, in some aspects, thank God, but in the other aspects, they can use information war to lock us down and, try and put a jab in us in the future. And use information war to scare the hell out of us with fear porn and pandemics. And Michael, that we just lost another chicken plant in Illinois the other day. I forget how many millions of chickens went up in flames. And it was clearly arson because the way that plant was burning, it was incredible. So, oops, I don't hear you guys. We lost your audio. Oh, no, it's back. No, I don't hear Michael. I think you need to have your earbud in, Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to put that earbud in.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're new on this new system, and you can see we're quite primitive in our usage of this sophisticated gear. We're like the people that are going to be trying to use New York. The people that are going to try to operate in New York, we have a microphone like that actually. But anyway, somebody just left a comment. Come to America, the fight is here. I get like 100 comments like that a day.
It is.
But let me say something. A lot of the people don't realize that in the fight that we're in, many of the fights that affect America are not in America. And many of the fights when Masako is in America or Netherlands or something, she gets hundreds of comments constantly. Come back to Japan, the fight is here. But the thing is, different parts of the fights are in different places. That's why a lot of people just descended on Switzerland because of the WHO thing, right? That's why we go to Darien Gap so much. The fight is there. I have to go there, right? I have to go to Netherlands. I have to go to the mRNA, self-replicating death jab, which is absolutely as big as anything you've ever dreamed of, is here. This is where that fight is, right? But a lot of people don't realize that. They think that the whole fight is about Trump's court case, which is obviously huge, but it's obviously not. We're being invaded. We got the self-replicating mRNA things going on. We're gonna have food issues, and many of this fight is global. And if you're not getting, like, Ann travels around the world, sees us all over the place. Masako does. I do. There's quite a few others who do, and that's the only way you're gonna kind of get a feel for this enemy, right? And learn how to counter it. We are causing it problems, but it's obviously getting in some hard shots on us still. But we're obviously starting to trip it up more, and it's because of these podcasts and things like that. It's because of people like Alex Jones. I mean, you notice when Alex Jones, he gets the harder he gets punched, the meaner he gets, and the more effective he gets, right? Yeah. And it's the same with you. And I see when people are doing bad stuff to you, that's when you're like, your energy goes up, and you just like let's get it on. You're like
Right.
Rocky, yeah,
Yeah.
you hit me in the ribs. Oh, my ribs broke. No problem.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's the way we have to be. And anyway, it's the same here with Masako in Japan. Everybody's trying to shut us down, and they haven't been. Look at Alex's plan. If they shut his studio, he's just going to go run around and go on Tucker and Joe Rogan and Steve Bannon and your show and my. I don't have a show, but I'll make one. But you know what I mean? He's just going to hit. You can't shut him down unless you put him in jail. And if you put him in jail, all we're going to talk about is Alex in jail.
Yeah. Well, we lost your audio again, Michael, real quick.
Oh, audio went out.
There you go. It's coming and going.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We should probably call it a day then if we're having audio problems.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So I actually, the only thing I'm concerned about at this point is, will they try to literally shut the internet down? Will they just say, we've got to do this, and we're going to just control the information flow, and we're going to declare a pandemic, an avian flu pandemic, and we're going to launch. And I think that what we have to do is we have to force them to get to that decision sooner than later. And the reason I'm saying that is, if, let's say, we have an election. First of all, they don't want an election because they know how that's going to end. And I don't think they can cheat their way out of this one, despite the millions of Social Security numbers that have been issued to illegals. I really don't think they're going to be able to cheat their way out of this one this time. But let's say we have an election. They're going to then shut the bank account down specifically for the illegals that are getting their $2,200+ a month, which will create a crisis for them for food and so forth, which will start rioting. And that's when I think we're going to see real issues. And I think that this is what they're going to try to do. So shutting the internet down is going to be something that they try to do sooner than later to really control the flow of information, create the chaos in the street, and prevent an election. Plus, I think General Flynn's assessment of Trump getting locked up is accurate. I think that judge on July 11th will issue his sentencing and have Trump taken to jail immediately. If not jail, locked in his own house under house arrest. What do you think?
Well, I watched that interview that you sent me between Doug McGregor and Mike Flynn. I watched the whole thing.
It was good, right?
And yeah, it was very important. And I know how you make these things happen. So, I mean, I think Mike Flynn's right. I think that they will lock him up because, and for the reasons you were just talking about, they're going to try to, they do want this to come to a head. I think that they thought that it would come to a head back in maybe even 2020, but it didn't. Right. And because I think they were surprised at how slow Americans actually are to react. I think that they thought that we would react even harder. And for instance, now we're being completely invaded and Americans still haven't really reacted at all other than talking, right? I mean, people like you and me, we go down there and at great physical risk, right? I mean, we've been, if I had 10 million of me, there wouldn't be any problems. It would be done, but I don't. And so, so the fact is all we can do is go and show what's going. Listen, I'm in Japan. There's another big fight, which is absolutely massive. Some of the Japanese have already started taking the self-replicating mRNA vaccine, which you're going to be talking about with Dr. Murakami tomorrow night. Yeah. And this is a big, big deal. And so we have to shut these things down. And Masako is about to show right now. You see on the screen, 4,300 Japanese have already taken the self-replicating mRNA jab, right? Obviously, it's not a vaccine; it's a jab.
Terrible.
Oh, many of the things
the reporting that you both did when you basically you were able to find out how much doctors were making in terms of every single jab and exposing that was incredible. Absolutely incredible. We saw how evil these doctors were, where they knew they were happy to take the money, and the more they jabbed you, the more money they made. And it was like an exponential. The more jabs, the higher the jab rate went, or the payback went. Just insane that they would. Yep. This is how. Whatever happened to do no harm? Did that like go out the window? What happened? Did your brain go out the window with it too? What happened there?
I read that book, Nazi Doctors, like 30 years ago. This is the same thing, right? And listen, there was an American doctor about 5 days ago or so. She mentioned how American doctors are actually getting paid as well, right? And she published it, and I saw that, and I'm like, Masako, look, this is exactly what the doctors here just told us. In fact, Masako, a bunch of doctors and scientists invited her up in North Japan, and they shut down a clinic for an entire day and just briefed us in this clinic about it. They had, PowerPoint or whatever software it was. They had it all set up, and they were going through this, how the doctors are paid and all all these different things. And it was just so we spent all day in that clinic that they shut down, and they showed us how that they were doing this. So when that American doctor published the same stuff, how American doctors were getting paid more, if you reach these different levels, then you would get paid more per jab. That's exactly the same thing has happened here. But the thing is we wouldn't know that it was the same thing unless we were here. You know what I'm saying? That's why we have to have people in different places, because then you can start to figure out who's who in the zoo, who's doing what. We know it's the World Health Organization, and the Japanese are starting to get quite responsive about shutting them down, about getting rid of them. Masako just put this up on the screen. Yeah. This is what those doctors gave us in the clinic last week. So they would get 2,000 yen, which is about, how much is that? $14? It's about $15 per jab. But if you did less than 100, but if you do 100 jabs, then you're going to get 4,000 yen per jab, so it doubles. And then 150 jabs, 5,070 yen, right? Now per jab. Now it's interesting because we were with a whole group of doctors and scientists that whole day, and then actually the next day, and it kept going on. It was very interesting. And they're like, everybody wanted to give shots. There was dentists, there was everybody that doesn't normally do something like that. There were anybody that had a license that they could, do a jab. A lot of them were doing it. But then Japan, just like the United States, we had these different camps where some are like, no way, I don't care, it ain't happening. I'm not giving a jab, and I'm not taking it. And, so it was the same story that you see in the United States is very similar to here in Japan. It's just got a different accent. It's the same story.
Do you remember when we were in, I think we were in Belize, Michael, and we saw them at the walking into was it a Walmart or a Target? I can't remember.
No, we were in Mexico. We were in Belize.
That's right.
Yeah.
We went over the border. Right. We were in Mexico. We were at Walmart, and they had the shrine to their what was that holiday?
Like Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead holiday. They had their shrine of the Day of the Dead, and right next to the shrine of the Day of the Dead, they were giving COVID and flu shots, like literally.
You made video of that. I remember you and Masako were like, "Look, Day of the Dead and vaccines,
and we'll honor you. Get killed, and we'll put your picture up here on the shrine to Day of the Dead." It was so insane that they had those shots going on right next to the Day of the Dead shrine. As you walked into Walmart, you get your free death shot.
If they were really entrepreneurial, they would also have a florist there and a funeral service, all, like a strip mall.
Get your package, take your death shot, pick out
take
your flowers. What kind of
do your Day of the Dead stuff? Yeah, get your flowers and go pay for your cremation.
Yeah, but they really wanted you to go buy the bad food first at Walmart, all the poison, eat that to contribute to your Day of the Dead ceremony. It's like, oh my God.
It was right at the front door. I mean, I remember we walked in and we're like, what? And the funny thing is we all noticed this is that, Americans are like, everybody's got to come up because, everybody's so poor in Mexico. I'm like, are you kidding? We went up when we left the border from Belize into Mexico. The first big store we came to was a Sam's, and we went in there. Remember, we were trying to get an SD card, but it was like $100 to get a Sam's card. So we went down the road, past the Starbucks, and went to the Walmart. Right? I mean,
and this is like, Mexico.
They're really starving to death here. It's like Mexico's rich. It's unbelievable. It's the same. It's the same in El Salvador. There's a lot of I guarantee there's going to be a lot of Americans moved to El Salvador.
And as a matter of fact, Joey, there it is. Masako found it.
Oh, that's it. Masako. Good job, Masako.
Masako, do you have the video of where we shot the video of the Day of the Dead?
She's looking
shrine, and then we panned it over just to the left. Oh my God, that was so funny. It was funny, sad. But back to El Salvador, my friend.
So that's the front of a Walmart right there that Masako just put on the screen.
Yep. I have friends down in El Salvador right now, and they just texted me that you got to come down. They can connect me to. I think I could even meet Bukele. They were putting some stuff together. So they're down there. Joey Manarino and Bill Holt, really good guys. They're down there right now. And this is Joey's second trip to El Salvador in like the last 4 months. He's like, I love this country. It's so safe. It's so clean. It's so nice. And every video, it looks amazing. Yeah. You've been there.
Yeah, I liked El Salvador. Surprisingly, it was very, I mean, I like Latin America, but I mean, you know, El Salvador has a reputation for being the most dangerous place in the Milky Way galaxy. And now it's like very safe. I mean, you know, it was like very safe. In fact, Misako and I were driving all over the country and no problems. And, you know, stopping, talking with people. And one thing that we saw in El Salvador, interestingly, they were drying corn on the side of the road on the you know, the bike path side of the road, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like long strands of it, they were drying that so that they could sell it and people make tortillas out of it and that sort of thing. Literally drying it, you know, dust blowing from the vehicles. I made some video and put it up.
Great. Nothing like a little dusty tortilla, but hey,
a little gritty.
Better than the mRNA jabbed cattle that we're eating. You know?
Absolutely. I would go back to El Salvador. I would actually recommend it for vacations.
That's exactly what Joey was saying. He said he recommends it for vacations.
Yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat. You know, and obviously the left wingers are going crazy. Oh, he's cracking down on crime. You know, they should be able to kill anybody they want. But I'm like, throw them in jail. You know, I think Misako may have found the video, and so So now in Japan, there it is. That's the Walmart. There's you, Ann.
Yeah.
And there's the jabs.
Yeah, there's the jabs, and right behind me is the shrine. Unbelievable.
And as you can see, the people are just destitute and starving.
Yeah, they're starving. They're starving in Mexico. Well, the people coming across the border, you know, after they've been bussed all the way up from the Darien Gap, they don't look too shabby because all their clothes are brand new, and their shoes, and you know. And then, of course, the San Vicente open? The San Vicente China camp down in Darien Gap. Did that reopen yet?
I think it's open. I'm not sure. I got some messages today from one of the Embera Indians, but he was actually just sending me bird pictures because he and I both we like bird watching. So sometimes we're actually not talking business because he's always trying to get good bird photos. I just
bought a hummingbird feeder today.
Did you? Mm-hmm. You know, I love bird watching ever since I was a kid, and I found one of the Indians. Oh yeah. I found one of the Embera out there. He just loves bird watching, so we're always sending each other bird watching photos. Do you have enough time, Ann, or do you have to go?
I'm good right now.
Because Misako's being polite, holding up this giant sign that she just wrote.
Oh, I want to see it.
Oh, can you see? She's like,
and time okay. Oh, she's so cute. Misako, I love you. Oh my God, she's the
awesome.
Sweetest thing. You're so lucky.
Yeah.
You are
here
so
scratching
lucky.
away.
Yeah, she's scratching away over there. So what are you guys doing next? What's on the docket? Because you might need to come back to the war over here. We're just going to have Misako come across the border like everybody else, and she can collect.
Oh, no. None of that.
I'm just kidding.
There's the man. Make America great. Make America great. You know, as you know, I'm the only super ultra conservative person in America that doesn't like Trump, I think. but I never have. But what they're doing to him is just absolutely criminal.
Right.
And it's just I mean, they're destroying our country, and as we all know that, and I'm not going to stop, and I know you're not going to. I mean, that's why we work together, and Misako's the same way about Japan as well, and now we're forming more international coalitions. Look at Ireland. Somebody now in Ireland, he's making a map now of all the camps, of all these migrant camps, invader camps. So much violence in Ireland now, and you know, Misako and I went to Ireland in October of 2022 because we thought they would have problems in Ireland. Mm-hmm. So as you know, if we go somewhere, you should probably be packing your bags and leaving, or getting a gun or something. So I mean, so we went to Ireland because we thought there would be problems, and there are now. You can see they're increasing. But you know, we were in Dublin, but we also went to, and there was a Chinese police station there, by the way, that Misako found, and then she published it, and they took their sign down the next day. But then we went up to Belfast. You know, from Dublin, we drove up to Belfast. and there's a wall in Belfast over 20 miles long. It's a massive wall. There it is. Masako found the wall. Look how tall that wall is. I mean, that's taller than the Trump wall. I mean,
That's right.
I remember we were standing at it. Masako, I was like, that's Masako drawing on the wall. Look at you. You're doing graffiti. Look at, see her in her dress. Look at it. Go back. There's Masako. You know, there she is, probably writing something to start some more or something. No. She's like, no. But that's the wall. And notice that on the top is fence. And I was like, you know, you would have to be a Japanese baseball player. And I still don't think if you're a pitcher, you can get a baseball over that wall. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it would be hard. But the point is that wall is to separate white Irish from white Irish, Catholics from Protestants, right? And even with that very serious animosity there, they're bringing in people from all over the world, Afghans, Pakistanis, Nigerians, Somalians, the whole who's who that you've already seen so many times. They're just flooding it in there, and there's a lot of violence breaking out on the streets now. Irish have started burning down some of the places, and oh yeah, Tadros, and so now the Irish are. Well, one of them is he'll send me a map soon. I asked him to make one that I can publish, and he's going through and they're because he had told me last week. He said the aliens around Dublin, for instance, their camps are right at the. He's a military guy, right? He's like the camps are built right at the critical places, so that they could control the egress and ingress from Dublin, right? So they're putting them right along the critical roads, and they're building fences at critical places that can be used to control the Irish, right? Can be used to corral the Irish. So he noticed that as a military man. So I asked him to, you know, map this thing out so that we can publish it and show it to everybody, you know. And so that's what they're doing now. They're out there mapping them out, and they're going to see. The first thing you always need to do when you're doing stuff is you map it out, right? Yeah. That's like doing stuff 101 is draw a map, make a map, right? It's critical.
Pretty pictures, little stick figures and arrows and things connecting, and maybe a Venn diagram or showing all the overlap.
Remember all the camps that we saw in Texas? Yeah. And there are other places too. And big camps. These clearly, this is not conspiracy theory. I'll guarantee you they're going to be used to imprison Americans. I'll guarantee it.
100%.
And you know, remember when Alex Jones and the others were really crazy for saying they're going to use Walmarts for detention facilities, and then we went to one where they're using it to keep all those children in Brownsville, in Texas, right? That's right. Southwest Key is running that thing, and we live stream from it, right? And everybody's like, "Oh, you're crazy! They're never going to use one." Not that it's a Walmart now, of course, but it is the Walmart building. It's right across from that McDonald's, right? And so all these things that. They're just all turning out to be true to, let's say, to an amazing degree, right? More than chance could explain.
I'm going to look something up really quickly. Or judges.
Let me see if there's any questions here. Let me see.
Yeah.
Fight Like Hell, MAGA 2024 is saying, watching. All right. I hope you're still watching. And then Freedom Liberty said they did publish that abortion child sacrifice as their religious right. It's sickening. That's unbelievable. And Bob Todd says our morning read is John 18:33-37. Actually, if you'd put that in there, I would read it out loud. And Bob Todd mentioned there's censorship here, Elon Musk. There is actually.
Are you on the X chat?
Yeah, I'm on the X chat. So there's probably people talking on YouTube as well.
I'm looking on YouTube right now.
Oh, is this your X chat? Oh, this is mine. Oh, that's the YouTube. Masako handed me. I just messed it up. She handed me the.
There's some folks in YouTube that are concerned about the tectonic plate and the earthquake activity. Bueno Beyond says they'd move immediately. Masako, do you feel nervous about living in Japan where there's a lot of seismic activity?
Earthquakes. Yeah. We were just talking about that the other day. Actually, we felt maybe 4 or 5 earthquakes when we were in Taiwan recently. They were kind of small, but they definitely rumbled. But no, she's Japanese, man. They're used to fighting Godzilla and stuff. You know, we were talking about what the old Japanese used to do, right? And because, every time I go to a country, I talk with old people and I say, what would you do for this? What would you do for that? And somebody about 10 years ago in Japan, she said the old people would run in when there's an earthquake, they run into the bamboo. They run into the bamboo groves, right?
Right.
And so what? And actually, Dr. Murakami knew that as well because we talked with him about it the other day. And so if you ask why do you run into the bamboo, they say because the root structure makes it very safe. Just old knowledge.
I believe that because when I see a lot of people in Florida have used bamboo as sort of a hedge. Now, I think a lot of times they plant it and they don't realize how tall bamboo can grow. I mean, it grows really, really tall. And maybe that starts to become a problem if it's blocking sunlight in their backyard. Maybe they're not happy. But to remove the bamboo, it's next to impossible because you can't get all the roots up. If you whack it all, there's roots everywhere. They pop up and bamboo just keeps coming back. It's super hard to get rid of bamboo. So once you plant it, you better be committed to it. That's all I can say.
Bamboo is just one of those things. There's thousands of types of bamboo. And it's I think you could rule the world with bamboo, coconuts, and some parachute cord. I mean,
shout out to Ron Reese, by the way. He's in the chat.
Oh, Ron.
Yeah, Ron's there. He says, got to understand that the globalist machine are utilizing biowarfare through pandemics to divide, create chaos, and exert global control through the WHO. That's a fact, Ron. No doubt. Ron's a great guy.
Yeah.
Giving me a lot of good education over the last couple of years.
He spent a lot of time in Indonesia. Ron did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he's back in Idaho now, though. I don't know where he's at now. And so anything else that you had to say, and we'll shut it down for the night. I just wanted to say hello. We're testing out our new system.
Birthday today, and I've got some folks.
Oh, happy birthday.
Over. Yeah. So I've got some folks coming over to celebrate that, which means I actually got to, get in the kitchen and start cooking. I got everything I need, but I haven't really assembled it all yet. So I got to get the food going and get a couple decorations and, just try to make the most of it as literally the world burns. And that means literally the entrance to my community is burning right now.
Yeah, that video the other night. Masako is about to show that video from May 31st, the big protest. And then
I want to see it. I want to see the big protest.
By the way, Dr. Jane Ruby was messaging me the other day. She's like, "Can you find that guy, Dr. Murakami? He's a famous virologist." And I'm like, he's driving the car that I'm in.
So Jane will be in my studio tomorrow night when we do the interview with Dr. Murakami. So I probably will I don't know if we'll sit here together or I'll just get out of the chair and let her come in and take over or whatever. But she's going to be really an excellent interviewer because this is her lane. This is her area of expertise. And just for anybody that doesn't follow Jane Ruby, it's at Real Dr. Jane Ruby. Follow her account. Because she calls balls and strikes like you, Michael Yon. She's not there for the likes and the clicks and the friends. She's there for the facts. And she lays out some stuff that people are like, oh, but you know what? She's never been wrong. Like she hasn't been wrong. In fact, she's such a threat that Dr. Robert Malone apparently sued her for defamation for $25 million. And that case got dismissed, but not after it cost her $61,000 in legal fees. To, put up a defense and then go for a dismissal. And the judge dismissed it, thank God, because it was a stupid lawsuit. It was basically a chiller trying to shut up her free speech. And she never even went after the guy the way he claims she did. So now she's putting memes out with a little pacifier in Dr. Malone's mouth. It's quite funny.
I saw it on her Twitter.
Yeah. But this is Jane Ruby. She'll be here tomorrow. And so she does not believe that because she knows they've never isolated COVID, SARS-CoV-2 in the lab. They don't have an isolate of that actual virus. She's like, well, how do you measure a spike protein if they never isolated the virus? We've never been able to measure spike. The PCR test is fake. Dr. Kerry Mullis, who invented the PCR, is now dead, said before he died, the PCR test can't test for specific diseases. They can't tell you whether you have the bird flu or the swine flu or the COVID or whatever, and then he dies. So how do you know if you're treating spike protein? How do you know if you've never had a spike measured that you can actually reduce the amount of spike in your body? How do you know these things if you can't actually track it? So she's calling out people like Dr. Peter McCullough because she's like, they've never isolated it. How do you know? So I think it's quite interesting to see.
Jane told me that when we were having dinner at your home. And so when I was with Dr. Murakami, I said, actually, I asked him directly, who's got the best microscope in Japan? And because, you know, I want to go see him. I want to see somebody that studies, you know, or a virologist that has it, and one of those ultra. It's not going to be an optical microscope to see viruses, but it's going to be something else, like one of those electron or even better microscopes. But I want to see an actual. I want to see somebody that actually sees these things, right? But I asked him if he's actually ever seen one, and he said no. But I'll let you talk with Dr. Murakami tomorrow. He's also very direct, and I think it puts off a lot of Japanese because he's actually like hardcore scientist. You know, he's very direct with stuff. And so
somebody
he's
asked,
like our
by the way,
kind
how
of people.
Kary Mullis died. He died of pneumonia at age 74. In case somebody asked that question, so I'm just responding to that.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy talking with Dr. Murakami tomorrow. And not tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Anyway,
yes, tomorrow.
When we do it.
Tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
I know it's hard. You're already a day ahead. So it's late for you. It's after midnight, right? It's 12:43 in the morning.
Oh, Shane is asking how we can watch this interview tomorrow. And it'll be on your channels, right?
Well, it'll be on my X channel, on my Rumble channel. If you go to my X account at Ann Vandersteel, it'll be there. So you can just follow me at Ann Vandersteel, and it'll be on X, but it'll stream on X, Facebook, Rumble, Getter. What am I forgetting? Spreely, Cloud Hub. I don't know. It goes all over. And then we'll put it on your channel if you want, and Masako's channel, and probably Jane Ruby's channel. Wherever we can put it, we'll share it all out.
Good. Actually, I wish Masako was talking more, but she's trying to make this thing happen here so people can see the graphics.
I know the tech is that I've got a blessing. So I want to shout out to Jake Lang. He's a J6 political prisoner. Been behind bars now 4 years, 4 birthdays.
4 years.
He had his 4th birthday, I should say, in prison. And he created Blessed News TV, and he has a StreamYard like what we're using right now. And he built really nice graphics. And, I resurrected, instead of Steel Truth, I resurrected Steel News, and I broadcast on his network once a week. But he's like, hey, anytime you want to use it, use it. So I taped an interview last night with a captain from American Airlines, 36 years, a pilot, 26 years seniority, Airbus captain, American Airlines, who is suing Americans, suing the FAA, and demanding investigations over the fact that you've got pilots that are flying without valid medical certificates and flight medicals, I should say, because they took the J&J jab, which had been stopped by the FAA for a period of 6 months. But American Airlines kept accepting pilots who were taking the J&J jab. Why? Because 1, they wanted to keep their job. 2, it was only 1 shot, so they didn't have to go back for a second. So pilots were opting into the J&J, but American never advised the pilots to tell them, oh, the FAA said this is not a lawful jab or a legal jab to use right now because there's problems with it creating clots in Europe. So the FAA put a pause on the J&J shot. American Airlines didn't tell their employees, and they allowed the employees to keep getting these shots. And so, every day you have pilots dying around the world. Every day, Josh Yoder with you at Freedom Flyers will tell you a pilot around the world dies from COVID. Or not COVID, from the shot.
Every day? No.
Every day.
Can I say one more thing? I know you have to go, but you're making me want to say, like, I got messages from 2 different pilot friends about maybe 10 days ago. And actually, I was sitting having lunch with an American pilot in Japan when his messages came in. These 2 other pilots messaged me from the United States. They both personally knew 4 other people that had just collapsed. One was a F-35 pilot, one was a helicopter pilot, one was an Army Ranger, and another one was a commercial pilot. So 4. None of them died, but one of the pilots almost died. And then in the hotel that we were staying at, somebody collapsed right in the lobby. So that's 5. All like, terrible. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean,
terrible.
No, we never remember anything like this in our lives. You know what I mean? It's clearly over the top. And it's the same here in Japan. I want to be crystal clear. The guy that collapsed in the lobby maybe 10 days ago, it was in Tokyo.
Wow.
He collapsed right in front of Masako.
Oh, that's terrible. It's just it's just freaking horrific what governments have done. Their racketeering influence criminal organizations, all of them, the worldwide governments, are collaborating together against the people.
Yep.
And humanity has to stand up and rise up and say no. And frankly, I'm actually going to a Palm Beach County Commission meeting on Tuesday And we are presenting letters. I'm just going to be doing some speaking. Other people will be speaking, but we're demanding that the Palm Beach County Commission pass an ordinance to stand up a county grand jury to investigate election fraud. And this time it's going to have teeth where when we finally assimilate all the information, which we already have, all the evidence, then issue indictments, because there's still ballot drop boxes all over Palm Beach County. You can vote now by ballot drop box. It's just such a crime what's going on. In addition to all the evidence of the machine fraud and everything else that's already been amassed, get these indictments going, and then hand it off to a sheriff that'll make an arrest. I don't think Rick Bradshaw is the guy, but because he didn't try and stop the invasion of the FBI into Trump's house down here at Mar-a-Lago. But I met a gentleman who's running for sheriff, and he's like absolutely going to deputize people that want to help make the roundups of these illegals. He'll deputize people to defend the county in times of war. So this is where we are.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Sure.
Mike Flynn on his thing with Doug McGregor a few days ago, he said that Mike Flynn said he was going down I-75 in Florida and ran into 3 Border Patrol checkpoints. Have you seen that?
I have not, but I have seen Border Patrol vehicles on I-95. I have definitely seen that. In fact, I tried to videotape one the other day, but we were moving pretty quickly in traffic, and before I could get my phone out, we were gone, and it was kind of a chaotic moment. We were sort of in a hurry, but yeah, I've seen Border Patrol vehicles in Florida. Well, look, I live near the coast, so they come up on the beach all the time. The Gulf Stream comes within 12 miles of where I live, near Jupiter, Florida, right? So the Gulf Stream is a major current, and that's coming up from the Caribbean. So if you're coming up from Haiti or Cuba or wherever, the Gulf Stream is easy, and you get closest to the shore near Jupiter, Florida, because that's where the Gulf Stream sort of dives westward in towards the state of Florida. And that's why we get so many people coming ashore here. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I've been scuba diving out there. It's crystal clear water, and
it's great drift diving, right? You just get in the you get in the Gulf Stream and just kind of camp out, and you sort of float right by the reef, and you can check it all out. It's pretty cool. I've done it.
Just come up in Iceland, and you're out of there.
Yeah. Ralph Barrick wants to remind everybody, just remember the evil genius. Sorry, not Ralph Barrick. Ron Reese wants to remind everybody to remember the evil genius. Ralph Barrick was the inspiration for the Zelenko protocol. He's a member of the National Academy of Sciences and probably the most knowledgeable expert on RNA viruses. And yes, the Zelenko protocol of azithromycin, zinc, vitamin D, all still works very nicely. You need that hydroxychloroquine and zinc together.
Hey, it's something very important. Very important. Tomorrow night, remember to ask Dr. Murakami about ivermectin and HCQ.
Okay.
And he's actually friends with the Japanese scientist. Misako read a book about it. It's only in Japanese, but it was a Japanese scientist who actually discovered ivermectin. Misako, was that on a golf course where he discovered that? But anyway, you need to ask him about it, because Dr. Murakami is friends with that scientist. He's going to introduce us to him, but he has some, you need to ask him about it. I'll let him, I'm not going to put words in his mouth.
Okay. Well, I just made a note. I'm going to be doing my research, so I've got good questions for Dr. Murakami when I get to meet him tomorrow night. I'm very excited to do this with you guys tomorrow. This is an awesome collaboration from literally however many, 12 time zones, 13 time zones away.
Yeah, it's almost 1 in the morning here.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. So you guys go get some sleep, and always great to see both of you. Please give Misako a big hug and a kiss from me.
Oh, okay. When you go off, we'll show this video from April 8th.
Okay, cool. All right, you guys, thank you so much for inviting me on, and I will see you later.
Bye, Ann.
Bye.
Talk with you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. So unfortunately, Ann's gone now. I'm so happy she came on. Now we're going to show this video that we made on May 31st, which was 2 days ago now. And so this was at the anti-WHO World Health Organization rally or protest here in Tokyo, down the road from where we're at right now. So can you run that right now, Misako? All right. And then we'll call it a night.
Michael. I'm sorry to interrupt. You're on the newspaper.
Uh-oh. Is it like Most Wanted or something?
No, wanted じゃないよね。That's Epoch.
Oh, Epoch.
Yes.
I saw Epoch here somewhere.
Oh. Epoch の人見かけましたよと。
We took Epoch to the jungle in the Darien Gap in Panama.
Epoch Times の取材班をパナマの JAL
Did really good. And just had a documentary come out, Josh Phillip. Oh, yeah. I was with Epoch also in Hong Kong. Very serious street violence, and Epoch was right in the middle all the time. I was with them. By the way, I don't work for Epoch. It's just refreshing to see that there actually are real journalists still out there. And Epoch actually hires them. What does it say?
So it says, is it about public health or totalitarianism? The WHO and the policy by the government is concerned.
Right. It's a weapon.
Concerning.
The jabs are weapons. I mean, they're not vaccines, obviously. You know, again, we've talked about this before. Words are atomic structures of truth and untruth. Absolutely vital to pick the accurate words. For instance, vaccine, it's not a vaccine. That starts this down the wrong path. This is clearly not a therapeutic. It's clearly a weapon. We're clearly in war. Also, there's many other weapons used in this war, such as something called weaponized migration. It's absolutely vital that Japan shut its borders to people from all over Africa and all over the Middle East and whatnot. They don't need to be here. There's a big world out there that they can go to that's not in Japan. We have people coming into the United States every day, thousands per day, about 20,000 per day, roughly, right? 20,000 per day. Per day. Crime is going through the roof. Rape, murder, robbery is destroying the United States. Europe, in many parts, is already essentially dead. The country of Luxembourg, for instance, is about 50% aliens right now. About half, it's dead. Similar is unfolding in Ireland. We went to Ireland and looked. We went to Luxembourg and looked. We went to 24 countries. The intent with the migration is not the right word. It's invasion, is to replace Japanese. First of all, kill off Japanese with the death jab and replace them with people from all over the world, from many different cultures. One of the reasons they take so many different cultures is, for instance, we have people from at least 150 countries coming into the United States every day. So all these different people from different countries, not just countries, but tribes, ethnicities, religions, they will not cooperate with each other. Therefore, they are already divided and easy to conquer after we're gone. There's a lot more going on than most people can recognize. What I'm going to say next will be strange to 99.99% of the people watching it, but there'll be that 1 out of 10,000 that'll understand what I'm saying. The Kurds are in Kawaguchi. I was with Kurds a lot in Iraq and other places. I like Kurds, great people. I've spent a lot of time with them. Very important to realize that Kurds have a very close relationship with Zionists. Almost nobody knows that. Maybe 1 out of 10,000 people watching this actually goes, yep, you're right. Many Kurds think they are one of the lost tribes of Israel, and many Jews think the same. So you see the relationship, the partnership between Kurds and Israelis is super tight. It's like the partnership of Taiwan and Japan. It's that tight. And so the Israelis, let's say Zionists, they advise Kurds how to take over areas that they come to, like Tennessee, Germany, how to get political power in those countries. You will see that the Kurds here will immediately have good relationships with lawyers. They will use those lawyers for lawfare. They will come from afar and attack Japanese freedom of speech. I guarantee you, some people believe that the Kurds have the largest diaspora in the world. Some estimates are 40 million. And once they have established a community, that door is going to open. They're going to use the press, they're going to use the lawyers, and they're going to use the politics to open the door for more to come. Everybody would love to come to Japan. An organization that everybody's name everybody in Japan needs to know the next name I'm going to tell you. International Organization for Migration, IOM. Their colors are blue and white. IOM is your enemy. That's the United Nations International Organization for Migration. IOM is currently trying to bring another 800,000 into Japan. Remember, World Health Organization and IOM come under the same United Nations. Downtown in Tokyo, The United Nations has a giant building, their university. What's the name of that place? We went there.
UN University?
United Nations University, I believe. Aoyama.
Aoyama.
That's where another place where Japanese need to become very familiar and bring a big crowd there so that everybody realizes United Nations needs to leave Japan and leave New York and leave the United States and leave Europe and leave the planet. We deal with the United Nations all the time when we're out watching these weaponized migrations, for instance, through Colombia and Panama and Guatemala and Mexico and Morocco, Lithuania. It's always the same story. They will destroy your country. They're like an arsonist coming with gasoline and matches.
What you talked about, Japanese people are not aware of at all.
The Japanese should rule Japanese. We will warn you of enemies that are coming that people are not aware of, like IOM, International Organization for Migration. Look it up. Please look up IOM. They are the enemy. Study them, and they have to go.
Thank you very much. Good lecture.
Thank you.
レクチャーありがとう。
Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
So much.
Conspiring for
Let me take it. How'd you do that in English so fast?
domination behind このMHLW って何ですか？
手につけて、ジュネーブの皆さんに光らせて見せてください。光るケミカルライトを手につけて。
Please show your attention. I will pass my mic to Professor Inoue.
ちょっとライトを落としていただけますでしょうか。
先ほどの、いやー、すごいですね。Greetings to the people of the great country Japan. My name is Sucharit Bhakti Puneratapa. Yet, nations around the globe have joined the mad race to develop and introduce RNA-based injectables. Japan is regrettably at the forefront. Your Ministry of Health is the first in the world to approve a self-amplifying mRNA product. Why? They use their own citizens as experimental objects years before mice were examined. And Japan demand the return of the purchase price for mRNA vaccines from the manufacturers and return it to your people. This is legitimate because it was sold a dangerous and fraudulent product. Leaders of Japan, act for the sake of your people and your honor. Stop these criminals who dare to raise themselves above God. Japan, the world is looking on you. Stand up now and show us the way back to humanity.
All righty. Thanks for coming on. And tomorrow night, we're going to have at the roughly the same time, we're going to have Ann Vandersteel, Dr. Jane Ruby, and Dr. Murakami. He's a very important virologist here in Japan. He's an expert on self-replicating mRNA jabs, and he knows how extremely dangerous these are. And he's actually quite well known among scientists in the United States and in Europe, and certainly here in Japan. And we're honored. We're going to have him on tomorrow. And we actually, Misako and I just spent 4 very long days with him, actually, like 12 hours each of those days. So we really got to know him quite well and learned a great deal. So let me see if there's one. I'll try to look for the last question on the page, and I'll try to answer one. Let's see. I don't see questions. I see some statements. Let's see. Well, all righty. I don't see any questions, but thank you for all the statements, and I'll read them all because there's well, it looks like I can read them all. It's not like there's 8,000 or something. So anyway, y'all have a good night and see you tomorrow. Yep. Somebody says Big Honey 6 copy. Yep, I copy. will you have Alex Jones on? I don't know. I've never had a show before, and just threw this excellent camera up on the tripod and went for it. And so, but I would certainly have Alex Jones on for sure. They can't really shut Alex down unless they put him in prison. And again, if they do, all we'll do is talk about Alex all day, year after year. And is Michael going to put out a documentary? I need to, that's for sure. And John Clark, thank you. I need to go live more, actually. And somebody says, "Oh, Taurus Todd met on Sukhumvit Wireless Road." Oh, I'm not in Thailand, man. I'm in Tokyo. Sukhumvit is in Bangkok. All right, y'all have a good night.